Most people are not bad with money because they are lazy. They are bad with money because nobody ever showed them what good actually looks like up close. They grew up watching the adults around them spend what came in, stress about what went out, and repeat that cycle quietly for decades. So that became the template. That became normal. And now, years later, they are doing the exact same thing, not because they chose to, but because they never learned there was another way. That is the part nobody talks about. The financial system does not come with instructions. School does not teach it. Most parents did not know it well enough to pass it on. So millions of people enter their 20s, 30s, and 40s operating on financial instincts that were never built for building wealth. They were built for surviving the month. And there is a massive difference between those two things. This video is about 5 habits. Not theories. Not abstract advice. Actual behavioral patterns that, when practiced consistently, create a completely different financial reality over time. Some of them will feel obvious when you hear them. But obvious and practiced are two entirely different things. The gap between knowing something and actually doing it is exactly where most people lose years of financial progress. The first habit is this: spending after saving, not saving after spending. It sounds simple. It is simple, but almost nobody does it correctly. Here is how most people handle money. They get paid. They pay their bills. They spend on whatever they need, whatever they want, whatever comes up that week. And then at the end of the month, if anything is left, they call it savings. That leftover amount becomes their financial future. And most months, the leftover is very small. Some months it is zero. This is not a discipline problem. This is a sequencing problem. The order in which you move money matters more than the total amount you earn. When savings is the last thing that happens, it will always compete with everything else: the dinner out, the impulse purchase, the subscription you forgot about, the friend's birthday gift. Savings loses that competition almost every time because present-day wants are louder than future-day security. The shift is mechanical and it changes everything. You move your savings the same day your paycheck arrives. Before you pay a single bill. Before you buy a single thing. A fixed amount, even a small one, moves into a separate account that you do not touch. Then you live on what is left. What this does psychologically is it removes the decision entirely. You never had to choose between saving and spending because saving already happened. The money is gone before your brain registers it as available. People who start doing this, even with small amounts, begin to build something they have never had before, a number that grows. And a growing number changes how you feel about money. It shifts you from scarcity thinking to accumulation thinking. That shift alone is worth more than the dollar amount in the account. The second habit is tracking where your money actually goes. Not budgeting, not restricting, just watching. Most people have no real idea where their money goes each month. They have a rough sense. They know the big categories: rent, food, car. But the details are blurry. And in that blur, hundreds of dollars disappear every single month in ways that would genuinely surprise them if they saw it written down. There is a very specific feeling that happens when someone looks at their actual spending for the first time. Not estimated spending, actual spending, pulled from their bank account, written out by category. That feeling is quiet shock. Not dramatic. Just a slow, uncomfortable realization that the story they told themselves about their spending and the reality of their spending are two different stories. The coffee adds up more than they thought. The subscriptions, streaming, apps, gym memberships barely used, add up to an amount they would never consciously agree to spend on those things monthly. The food delivery. The small purchases that felt like nothing individually. When you see those numbers together, in black and white, the waste becomes undeniable. Tracking does not require a complicated system. A simple spreadsheet, a notes app, a free budgeting tool, anything that shows you, at the end of each week, exactly where every dollar went. The act of looking, just looking, not even changing anything yet, begins to change behavior automatically. When people know they are watching themselves, they spend differently. That is a psychological fact. This habit builds financial self-awareness. And self-awareness is the foundation of every other financial improvement. You cannot fix a problem you cannot see clearly. The third habit is understanding the difference between an asset and a liability, and slowly, deliberately shifting which one you buy more of. Most people spend the majority of their income on things that either lose value or cost money to maintain. Cars, new clothes, electronics, furniture. These are not bad purchases in every case. But when they represent the bulk of your financial decisions, month after month, year after year, your net worth does not grow. It stays flat, or slowly shrinks. An asset is something that puts money back into your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out. That definition is rough, but it is useful. A car is a liability, it requires insurance, fuel, maintenance, and it loses value the moment you drive it. An index fund is an asset, it sits quietly and grows without requiring anything from you. A rental property is an asset, it generates monthly income. A new phone on a payment plan is a liability, you are paying for it monthly while it depreciates in your hand. Wealthy people do not become wealthy by earning more alone. They become wealthy because they consistently direct a portion of what they earn toward things that grow, and they make that a non-negotiable priority before they spend on things that depreciate. The habit is not about becoming extreme. It is not about never buying anything that loses value. It is about developing the awareness to ask, every time you are about to make a significant financial decision, is this going to grow my position or shrink it? And over time, shifting more of your decisions toward growth. Someone who starts investing $200 a month at 22 years old will have a dramatically different financial life at 45 than someone who starts at 32. Not because they were more talented. Not because they earned more. Simply because they started directing money toward assets 10 years earlier. Time and habit together are the most powerful financial forces available to a regular person. The fourth habit is protecting your income before you increase it. This is the one most people skip entirely. They focus on earning more hours, a better job, a side hustle, without ever stabilizing what they already have. And so when something goes wrong, the entire structure falls. Here is what protecting your income looks like in practice. An emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of basic living expenses, sitting in a separate account, untouched. This is not exciting money. It does not grow fast. It does not feel productive sitting there. But it performs the single most important financial function available to someone without wealth. It prevents one bad event from destroying years of progress. Without an emergency fund, a car breakdown becomes credit card debt. A medical bill becomes a loan. A sudden job loss becomes a financial collapse that takes years to recover from. With an emergency fund, those same events become temporary inconveniences. Problems you solve this month and move on from. Not crises that follow you for the next decade. Most people know they should have an emergency fund. Very few actually have one that covers more than a few weeks. The reason is that building it requires delaying other things, the vacation, the upgrade, the purchase you have been thinking about. It requires tolerating the discomfort of having money available and not using it. That discomfort is real. But the discomfort of financial vulnerability, of lying awake worrying about what happens if something goes wrong, is far worse and far longer lasting. Protecting your income also means understanding your expenses well enough that you know exactly what it would take to survive if your income stopped tomorrow. Most people have never calculated that number. Knowing it is the first step toward being prepared for it. The fifth habit is the one that compounds all the others. It is this. Making your financial decisions from a written plan rather than from how you feel on a given day. Emotion is the most expensive thing most people buy. Not cars. Not vacations. Emotion. The impulse purchase made because the day was hard. The stock sold in panic because the market dropped. The raise spent before it arrived because the excitement of earning more made spending more feel justified. The credit card used because something felt urgent in the moment. Financial decisions made from emotion are almost always worse than financial decisions made from a plan created when emotions were neutral. A written financial plan does not need to be complicated. It needs to answer a few basic questions. What comes in each month? What leaves each month? How much goes to savings before anything else? What specific financial goals you are working toward and by when? What you will and will not spend money on this month? When you have those answers written down and you look at them regularly, your decisions have a reference point. Instead of asking yourself in the moment, should I buy this? You ask, does this fit the plan? That question changes the outcome of hundreds of financial decisions per year. Not all of them. You will still make emotional purchases sometimes. But the frequency drops significantly. And the frequency of good decisions, compounded over months and years, is exactly what creates financial distance between people who started in the same place. The reason most people never write a financial plan is that it requires confronting numbers they would rather not look at. A plan makes the reality undeniable. How much debt exists, how little is saved, how far the current behavior is from where they want to be. That confrontation is uncomfortable, but it is a one-time discomfort that prevents years of ongoing drift. Drift is the real financial enemy. Not one bad purchase, not one bad month. Drift, the slow, unconscious slide of spending more than intended, saving less than planned, postponing investment decisions, telling yourself you will get serious next month, is what costs people a decade of financial progress without them ever noticing it happening in real time. Here is what all 5 of these habits have in common. None of them require a high income. None of them require financial expertise. None of them require perfect discipline or a completely different personality. What they require is a shift in sequence, awareness, and decision-making, applied consistently, over enough time, that the results become undeniable. The person who saves before spending, tracks their money honestly, buys assets alongside liabilities, protects their income before growing it, and makes decisions from a plan rather than from feeling, that person does not need to earn twice as much as their peers to end up in a completely different financial position. They will get there on the same income, in the same economy, facing the same obstacles. Because the habits are doing the work quietly, in the background, every single month. Most people will read about these habits, feel motivated for a day or two, and then return to their default patterns. That is not a character flaw. That is how human behavior works when there is no structure forcing a change. The difference is made by the small percentage who take one of these habits, just one, and install it as a non-negotiable part of how they handle money from this point forward. Not 5 at once. 1. Practiced until it no longer requires willpower. Then the next one. That is the whole strategy. It is not complicated, but it is honest. And honesty, applied to your financial life consistently, is worth more than any single piece of advice you will ever receive.